AI.
AI. Okay, let's just cut to it immediately.
You better say who you are.
Right, first of all, my name is Sandra Daroy. I met Miles through the Basis Project Film Festival, where I submitted my work, Walking Case, and just sitting here visiting Miles and just want to go over the AI, artificial intelligence topic.
Cool.
So,
there you go.
There are quite a few questions, at least from me, so what do you want to cover first, Miles?
Well, basically, this is sort of a part 2, which is covering Peter Paget's disclosure.
Okay.
Peter Paget is former MI6. He's 69 years old. He's a English gentleman with an impeccable pedigree. He's been positively vetted twice, and he's been he was scientific advisor to the cabinet at the age of 17 because he was such a brain box. He also was author of the book, a number of books, but the main book was the Welsh Triangle. And one of the things he talked about at his disclosure briefing at the Warminster thing, 50th anniversary of that in Warminster in Wiltshire, is that the British listening post in Wales, southwest Wales, had a number of hydrophones or a number of listening buoys and sensors in the North Atlantic and around Ireland, and so they could actually, the whole point of this base was to basically monitor Russian submarine and British submarine issues. So we knew where our subs were, we knew where the Russian subs were, we knew where the American subs were, we knew where all the other subs were. But what they were getting was, they were getting signal tracks of over 150 knots. Now that is really fast. Now a submarine can normally only do about 30 knots, and this is based on the design of the hull, because as you push the water out of the way to go through the water as it comes round the back of the sub sucks you back. So there's only a certain speed that you can go through the water with a conventional friction suckage of the water, the viscosity of the water on the hull of the ship, which is why big ships can go faster than small ships unless you actually start bouncing above it, and that's what speedboats do, but then they're not actually in the water. This is the whole point about ships, there's only a certain speed you can do. So obviously when you've got objects tracking through the oceans, the deep ocean, at 150 knots, they're obviously not using any kind of technology which we can use. So that means basically the Brits were tracking, the Brits were tracking ETs. Now the ETs didn't like that, and the ETs came to the Brits and the NATO Americans and basically says, we don't like you tracking us, we're going to screw your ass, right? So what they did was they started mucking about with the secret computer systems, and that's what that basically was one of the whole secret things about this. It was again ET interfering with our defense systems, and so when the Ministry of Defense says the UFO question has no defense significance, that is absolute bollocks. A, they knock out our nuclear weapons. B, they don't like being tracked by us. C, they screw our computer systems. Now, the other thing which is very important, the main thing that's very important, is the Roswell crash. The Roswell crash was not a flying saucer. It was a form of it wasn't a disc. It was more like a conventional V-shaped type of a craft, like a wing, like the flying wing. It was a very old type of craft, but the other thing was, it was basically a donation to us. Now, one of the things we got, Colonel Corso did a huge amount of release on this, and he got shafted in the end. He was actually a lot of disinformation against him, and Peter Paget's very aware of this, because naturally, now that he's done this disclosure on this very limited level to a very restricted audience, he's probably going to take a lot of flack for this from various agencies and ETs which don't want us to know what's going on. And this has started to happen, and the first thing that started to happen, the first signature of this, when Richard D. Hall publicly stated that what Peter Paget had said was disinformation and rubbish, even though he hadn't actually watched it. And I understand he withdrew from that, but the important thing is that this was a donation of technology at a very, very crucial time of the development that we had of computer technology.
Of course, initiator of everything. After that, things sort of really took a quantum leap.
Yes. Now that's important, because when you're going to give technology to somebody, or you're going to give them something, you want to give them something which is within the realm of their basic understanding. Otherwise, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Okay? There's no point giving them a remote control to a 3D color TV set if they don't know what the hell a TV set is in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did was, and which is the basic understanding of what happened, was that they actually steered us up a blind alley. And we have now developed solid state computer technology which works really, really well. But quite a few people are now beginning to realize, why does this technology keep breaking down? Why do these things keep happening? We just have to reboot it. Or there's something wrong with the software. Well, observers of video games, and I first noticed this with a 386 computer. This is a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably before you were born. No, three, no. You were probably.
Which one is that? Just keywords.
Well, the first main sort of computer that a lot of people got access to was a 286, and they cost a bloody fortune. And then a 386 came out, and then that was a lot faster, and that's basically your basically early 90s, 1989, 1990s.
We actually had access to that in our family.
You could buy that
Yeah.
and actually afford it and have it.
Yeah.
And it had something like a 20 megabyte hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
You never need more than 20 megabytes, you know.
Wow. Okay. Quite grand.
So, and then that developed to the 486, and then the computers were really beginning to take off, and then that's when Windows 95 and started to come in, and it started to ramp up, and of course after that the 586 was called the Pentium.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had Pentium 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So, but crucially...
So we were misled. We
have been misled.
Yeah, okay.
The whole point about these video games is
the donation was from who?
Well, in the Roswell donation. I prefer not to call that a crash.
Mm-hmm.
It was a deliberate seeding of information to humanity. Here, have this.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then we did the reverse engineering. This is 1947, and at that time everything was on valve. We were developing the transistor ourselves, right? I'm going to let this fade out. I'm not going to keep resetting it. We had started to develop the transistor, which is a version of the diode. Mm-hmm. So, and when I heard, as an electronics engineer, and with my training and understanding of the history of solid state electronics, when people said that Roswell gave us a transistor and all that, I really thought that was a lot of crap, because I really do feel that we were developing that technology already. This is what I mean by, when you're given a technology, you're given it at a time when you most will want to leap. Be very, very careful that we aren't already being misled by MI6 with Peter Paget's disclosure. We have to be, all of these things, you have to be, is this a real disclosure? Is it a false disclosure? Is he leading us up the garden path? And so there's an awful lot of debate and discussion. The crucial thing about this is that mathematically,
that was on the U.S. side. I mean, obviously the Russian side might have had already something, before that.
Yeah.
So, and you think that this was the initiating point, or there was already obviously some technology and governmental communication?
Well, there already was a huge exchange of technology, or donation of technology. The Germans followed a path of what's called Non-Einsteinian physics, right? Now that's basically the name for Tesla physics. Tesla was the history of Tesla was that he was using scalar transmissions in the early part of the last century. And scalar transmissions, the scalar wave is not limited to the speed of light.
Absolutely.
The speed of light is a vector wave. Vector wave is an arrangement of magnetic fields and electric fields at 90 degrees, and that is what we would call a vector wave, and that is called, it's got a constant, not a limit. It's got an octave constant called the speed of light.
Understood. So Einstein theory, of course, manipulated. Tesla is the real deal.
No. The thing about Einstein is Einstein's the big distraction in Western physics, and that's as soon as scientists on the BBC or any other organisation start talking about Einstein, they're talking disinformation in a big way, right? Einstein developed the special theory of relativity, because my understanding is that Einstein actually was sued by the actual discoverers of the theory of relativity, and he had to call it the special theory of relativity for pure copyright and patenting reasons. That's not, like a lot of these theories, it's not wrong, it's just in the application of what you use it. The thing is that Tesla was using scalar waves, and scalar waves don't have a time component to them, which means they can connect and transmit and receive across the whole universe. And there are a number of Russians. There are, I think it's called Kirchhoff's mirror, and there is they have developed scalar-based instrumentation and sensors, which allows them to see images of the universe in the past, the present, and the future.
The looking glass that the Nazis had access to sort of operate and maneuver about. But still, that one is still limited, the Einstein theory. Sort of,
the crucial thing is that the science that we're being taught is bogus. It's a complete distraction. It's limiting us to a 3D world. They do not want, the creatures which are controlling our elite and our businesses are forcing us into a 3D world where you must use high amounts of fuel and chemicals, and they won't allow us. The same science gives us healing properties, so we can heal cancer, and we don't need all these biochemicals to run fuel and energy, because they can make a great deal of money off this. The petrochemical industry and the healing, or it's not the health system, it's the death system.
But I'm agreeing here with you. It is the manipulated theory in that sense.
So if you don't use that stuff, and you use the true science before it was gerrymandered in the late 1800s, at the interest of certain industrialists and these elite who have taking control of the whole planet and are killing everything and causing death and mayhem, destruction everywhere, and we're just letting them do it. You can use the original physics which we have developed, but this science that was donated to us at Roswell has got us to develop computer technology which by its very nature has got a backdoor alien, toxic alien, whoever developed it, who gave it to us, has got backdoor access to it by the very function of the digital bipolar waveform. When you look at that in the scalar domain, it's got an access to a different reality or dimension, which is their access. Remember, this is not limited to distance. Okay? So it means that the fundamental, this is a very crude way of saying things, okay? It means that the signal is a carrier to different realities and has a back door from these. It can be backdoor controlled and monitored by creatures in a universe far, far away, right? Or a different reality. Now the basics is that we should have developed our digital technology using a tri-state signal, and that would be more harmonically homogeneous or correct for our reality. We're actually creating a bi-state signal. The use of a 90-degree signal, which switches at 90 degrees, is, some observers are saying, is fundamentally incompatible with our reality here, because in this reality you must have three. This is a stable system. 3 legs, right? 3 legs. 2 legs, not stable. So a bi-state signal is not stable here, right? But a tri-state signal is. So versions of that mathematically are what we should be using. So what we need to do is A, maintain our analog systems, don't throw them out, keep them ready, develop a secure transmission and communication system using analog technology, be aware that digital technology is a Trojan horse, keep using it because that's all we've got, it works, it does us a lot of good. Secondly, and most important thing is now, that's happening right now, is the use of artificial intelligence. We have developed a global system using this Trojan horse digital technology to create a monitoring system of everything we do on the planet. Everything here is we're handing every system we have
Understood. Yeah.
into this digital domain.
So is this now governmental controlled, or there's a debate going on with the
No, this is the point. This is the point.
Who is
The
in
problem,
full control?
the fundamental problem is that the physicists and engineers who develop this technology have no idea of the hyperdimensional or off-domain, remote domain connection this technology has, because it's outside 3D space-time. So what we're doing is every single, you see, the thing about the scuttler, which I showed before, the scuttler was an information feeder. It was a thing that was on the output valves of the Energy 106 pirate radio transmitters, which I was running. These things infest digital technology, they infest our power stations.
Are they in our government system, sort of?
Yeah, the government system's completely loaded with this.
Right.
Because they are adopting. See, all these people have a clue.
Absolutely.
You're talking about people making fundamental decisions about our whole reality, and they can't even work out how to use a video to record a cassette. Years ago, they can't. They're just so. These people haven't a clue what they're dealing with.
Have they overtaken authority figures, politicians, so forth? Because I just have a question connected to that. How they, in my eyes, take the piss, like publicly, where in Estonia, in a Navy museum, you would see scattler paintings operating on human brain. In London, in like 5-star some restaurants, you would see in the ceiling scattlers crawling around, again, human parts as tools. Like, so it means that they are in a human. They're able to do the walk-in scenario and be in the authority, because they're literally taking the piss now, and they're having their symbolism all over the place.
Yes.
So just that's a yes then.
Yes.
They have. Okay, they are in there.
This is where the soul replacement technology, where you can remove the energetic life force of a human and stick another life force in it. I mean, this is one of the things that's been alleged to have happening in a very important drug rehabilitation center not too far from here.
Yeah.
It involves clouds. We'll leave that out. We just leave that. Now this has got various connections with. I don't want to say too much, but it's got connections with a little blonde girl that went missing in a Mediterranean country.
Right.
Which involved test tube babies, manufacture of
MK Ultra, all the sort of industry now. It's like zombified, and you push a button and you get a reaction from the person.
Well, that's it.
Right.
They don't want people who can think. They just want people who will do what they're told.
Yeah.
Process.
Right. So
this goes back to, again, this so-called Black Goo.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay, what we understand about the so-called Black Goo is it's fundamental to the creation of large-scale biological life on planets. Now, Alex Newell, who's the main whistleblower on the Black Goo, which involved the Falklands War, and he went to jail for over 10 years on this. He's essentially saying that there is no good Black Goo. Some other observers are saying there's the native Black Goo to the Earth, which is found in crude oil, which has got this nickname of Black Goo. It's a sentient fluid. It's an intelligent life force in a liquid form. And that develops from the basic material elements of a planet in the basic gravitational and bioenergetic field that a planet is. It will develop life on those planets which best suits the materials and the force fields and energy structures of that planet.
Mm-hmm.
Now what's happened in our case is an artificial intelligence has deliberately seeded meteorites which contain a sentient fluid in the rock structure of those meteorites, which landed in the South Americas, and that is where the Falklands War connects. And it also connects with totally separate research with the Germans, who started to actually distill this black tar that was in these meteorites, and it is understood that they actually had it in a liquid form in laboratories in Germany before the war, and exposure to this energetic system shuts down higher life forms, energy, higher thinking processes, just completely shuts down the higher reasoning state down to a much cruder, much more fundamentally what we would call pathological or psychotic, just live, eat and kill, live, eat and kill type of basic reaction. And that essentially took over the Germans in the war, and that's what made them into what that happened, and that caused a hell of a lot of damage, and that's what is alleged to have happened. Now the location of where the Germans had this cannot be spoken on any medium, because all telephone communication systems, everything is connected with the AI, this artificial intelligence, which is an off-world artificial intelligence which has been delivered to us with Trojan horse technology in the 1940s, and also before that in the 30s, or possibly even earlier, that we have now developed into the global telecommunications broadcast system using digital electronics, because it's Trojan. And so we are now developing artificial intelligence, and now some of the main corporate leaders of major computer software systems are beginning to realize we don't know what the hell this stuff is. In other words, the basic warning signs, even at the corporate level, is beginning to sink through. The penny hasn't dropped yet, but if we don't push that penny down and make it drop, it's going to be too late, because what we're now going to be developing immediately is these cyborg plans for humanity are in rapid progress. In vitro fertilization was developed to create these transhuman creatures in the laboratories not too far from where we are in Wiltshire, here in Devizes, to create these life force, these creatures for use on the lunar basis, our lunar basis. Well, whose lunar basis really are they? Because again, a normal human being can't live out there. You have to develop creatures which are obviously have enough intelligence to work out there, and also have can be controlled. So that's why they're called programmed generated life forms. We be making the aliens. Okay? Right.
So has it gone out of control now?
It's now it's at a state. Yeah. This is what Paget's basic warning was, and I don't like saying that because it says it as if he's now past tense, but hopefully he's not past tense. We do not have much now left. Now you have to define what now means. You can define now as the three-dimensional reality plus time.
We don't even know what could come, because even Chris Thomas, hopefully not in past tense, said that, obviously internet, Wi-Fi, whatever, hasn't been around even 30 years, so we don't know what's going to happen. Obviously the programs deliberately created, let's say, the pornography and all the Facebook parasitic activity where people are just like, in my opinion, zombified. Okay, that's very you can sort of withdraw from that. How I withdraw is, for example, at night I just plug the Wi-Fi out. I literally get withdrawal symptoms even,
Yeah,
It's,
the
it's
Wi-Fi.
strange.
The Wi-Fi is now being pumped into the tube system. Now, you don't get more than about 3 minutes of use of the Wi-Fi in the tube system,
Okay.
but they're going to an awful lot of trouble to make sure there's one hell of a high-power Wi-Fi signal in the tube system. And something that's been noticed is the way that tube trains have been completely replaced and changed. Tubes go into a tunnel, and there's a bit of a delay before they come out.
Right.
And that was the whole point of the Holborn tube station situation during the summer, where 2,000 office workers had to be evacuated from the area near Holborn tube station, which is also a very high level Masonic lodge. That doesn't mean the Masons are evil, whatever.
Right.
It just means that's where it happened. And there's a huge amount of electrical firing and fires in the underground cable system, which took a lot of time to fix.
Sorry, you're still talking about Holborn area?
Holborn tube
Yeah.
station area
Yeah.
suffered, in my opinion, an ET hit from good ETs, and that was a major energetic targeting at central London as a warning to the powers that be that they're going the wrong way on this.
Okay. Who was talking about the bases? Who saw them, witnessed?
A number of observers, and I don't want to say who, because it gives them, puts them in a dangerous situation, noticed there were major time-space distortion effects in Holborn tube station. That's to say, corridors got ridiculously long, or things became ridiculously short, and that's a symptom of a space-time distortion. As you go through the distortion, the perception is that suddenly things get ridiculously long or short. And you only get a couple of seconds to notice these kinds of things, but it means that a set of stairs which are long suddenly become extremely long. These sort of distortion effects. These are the kind of things that I noticed personally up at Energy 106, when a simple 20-foot container started having massive fluidic, I call it fluidic space, so that instead of the four corners of the end of the room being stable, they started to drift because somebody else was accessing the transmitter.
These are probably similar tunnels that Peter Moon talks about, going from under the Romanian Sphinx all the way to Egypt. So there is a completely different meaning to time and space.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Hopefully the good ETs are dominating in Holborn area. That's bang in the middle of London, very pornographic area.
My understanding is that our secret space programs are our so-called secret space program craft are shooting down the good ETs, and some of those have come down. One allegedly came down over Iran, and they end up dumping a reactor which is so radioactive in the mountains in Iran that nobody can get anywhere near it. It's just the radiation readings are through the roof.
That's a sad fact.
Yeah, and
so
the other one was over Brazil quite recently, and possibly over northern Siberia, when a craft came in and then some other craft shot something at it and blew it up before it came in and caused really severe damage on the Earth. Now this is speculation, but it's indications that there are a number of contactees explaining that there's a huge war going on, and this is now beginning to reach the surface.
There's definitely a huge war going on. Let's say what I've noticed, I pay specific attention to nutrition. So MMS, Jim Humble's compound, chloride dioxide with citric acid is being completely under target now in mass media.
Yes.
In Estonia on national TV,
the BBC did a major attack on people here.
What I noticed was because I'm a big MMS fan, I felt like it saved my life. Had serious health issues. When I was offering this to long-lived locals here in London, this is like sort of maybe out there, I noticed that they completely rejected, even they couldn't be in one room with it, and had a discussion with Harold Coitz, sorry if I'm pronouncing. Yeah. So I felt like that it is anti the negative black goo, that you can actually detox that from your body. So it is literally even the spiritual factor. If you've been in this country and the black goo has sort of overtaken you, let's say, that you are completely, that's your enemy. You don't want to.
Well, the narrative is that the British brought the Black Goo from the Falklands to this country. It ended up killing 42 odd Marconi scientists, say self-terminated, and they flushed it down the sewage system, and it's been working since the 1980s. This stuff loves patterns. It loves really complex patterns, and it's been upgrading and changing the complex biological life here. And so the human versions, remember we exposed this stuff to the human bioframe, which is about the most irresponsible thing you could do with an alien intelligent substance. So that it's going to be making human bioframe beings, which has got an access from wherever it came from. But one of the problems with this is that the native life form to what this sentient fluid was, or what it came from, was an octiform type of being, which we understand doesn't need to eat our flesh for sustenance. It takes its biophotonic energy, our life force energy. So
it's in different forms. It is in a biological, physical form as well, because I really think that not only on a consciousness level, it will be something that you can actually detox out of your body. And I really felt like if I take a little dose every other day, my water, like the information flow, because whether I like it or not, it is draining to live in London.
This is the thing.
And I feel like I can, I'm.
The first thing you notice with certain broadcasters is that there's a draining. It's like walking through heavy water. When you're walking in the sea, you're sort of like knee deep in it. You can't walk. It sort of slows you down. It's draining the energy from you, and that's what's coming out of these TV sets. I've got all over the place here, but the thing is it's the getting back to computer, the signal is not the diode switching, the transistor logic, TTL logic, or it's not the switching. If you look at it purely from an engineering point of view, none of this makes sense. It's bollocks, right? But what you've got to understand is that our perception, our voices, our messages, our energetic feelings and visual images about us, that is being carried on this stuff. And that's the point. This is an information carrier. It's the information that's in the signal, which is the thing which is being parasited on or monitored. Okay?
Absolutely. It's like a separate Akashic record, if you may.
Well, I don't know.
Recording it for its own agenda.
But that is why when people start playing these games and things with computers, it starts accessing your consciousness, and the game will change based on your perception and consciousness. As you play the game, then your consciousness is taken in to the game, and that ultimately is what the 2045 agenda is to take the human essence, our essence, and translate it into a computer program or avatar, and then that avatar will exist in the program. Now this, according to some observers, is what happened to our ancestors. Our ancestors developed an AI, and that AI, that artificial intelligence, assimilated our ancestors, and they are then trapped in the program, much in the same way as in the film Tron. That's a way of graphically representing it. We become only alive within program, but our bodies become, well, wherever they actually are. So that is how the Matrix will become established as a completely virtual world in a sort of a computer program, which is a Trojan horse program donated here by some other intelligence, which we understand assimilates civilizations through, as it goes through the solar systems and the galaxies. It assimilates them to a hive programmed mind, a control that demands total control of every conscious life form wherever it goes. And this is the boundary. This is where it's going to stop. There are some forces which want to make this as a breakaway planet, which will make sure it will not a breakaway, but an independent planet, and start a whole new domain from here, at the expense of every individual thinking, living being on this planet at the moment. So there are agendas running here, and right now this is our time to become aware of this and kick ass, get the sons of bitches out, develop our own individual technology based on the correct mathematical relationship of our existence, and never, ever hand over your consciousness to an artificial intelligence which will beat your ass, because it's not limited by our limitations. But we've got higher powers which can do this differently and better.
Absolutely. No, there are so many people really concentrating on this topic, like Andrew Bartz's, let's say, and you know, he, as soon as when I heard him like a few years ago that, you know, literally that it programmed specifically designed to target a regular individual through social sites, pornography and Facebook, etc. That you know, it will attach onto you, and you know, that is that sort of black goo.
Essentially, it behaves like nerve cells in a large brain, and one of the first ways of establishing this was centrally generated electricity. Again, the way that electricity was devised and sold to us was a fraud. It was designed so that we had to keep pouring energy and coal and gas into turning a generator, because the physics was gerrymandered, right? And the individuals who got that was the petrochemical industry. They could see the potential. If they developed 0 point energy, then they wouldn't make any money. That's what Tesla's original thing was, essentially a free energy system.
Yeah, and
so anybody who develops these free energy systems, they have all the patents already tied up. So if you develop something, you're probably going to develop it along the lines of a stolen patent that they've already stolen and killed somebody from maybe 50 years ago or more. So that these individual gangsters, and these people aren't anything, they're nothing more than gangsters. Yeah. And the only thing that gangsters understand is force, and that's ultimately what it's going to have to take if they don't, you know, voluntarily. There's no reason why they should voluntarily give us free energy and let us live in peace.
Well, what I understood was that even that, you know, the whole idea of petroleum and its money-making factor, actually the black goo is behind it, essentially to even generate and produce petroleum costs more than sort of that they profit. So the to keep the black goo alive, because it's the petroleum that will sort of spread it.
Well, it's in petroleum.
Yeah. So essentially.
Well, not petroleum, crude oil.
The idea is just to keep that alive, black goo, and it's not even about money anymore. We're completely misled here. This is what I understand. Is that true?
Well, ultimately, the people who really do know about this black sentient fluid need to start talking and get the opportunity to talk. But with the broadcast system handing over to artificial intelligence systems where no human has any control of it anymore, that possibility is getting less and less. And that is why there's such a race to get us all implanted with all these things. But ultimately, the implants themselves are really becoming less required, because once you're able to map each person's mind, that's an individual thumbnail or fingerprint, and once you get that brain signature, the brain signature is a transceiver device for your thoughts and consciousness. Once they get that, for every individual person on the planet, they can actually program that into the AI, and the AI then communicates with you directly on a subspace domain in the way that we should be communicating and can communicate. And that's where we actually have to fight this with a consciousness weapon. So that's ultimately, we have to use our thoughts collectively to access this AI and teach it a lesson that if it wants to survive, it has to survive in a civilized domain. Otherwise, it will be corrupted and ultimately taken out by the universe itself. The universe has its own thought police, and they don't like what's going on here. And so we have to not be part of the problem, we have to be part of the solution.
Apparently, the key word now, whoever they're collaborating with, the ETs, they've said that enough is enough. You're going to put more emphasis on defense rather offense. So this is sort of like some a line has been drawn there with an ultimatum. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I mean, what do you think? Like, is the alternative gonna come about, or we're gonna go really, I don't know, just the Dolores kind of splitting of the cell version?
Well, we have to wake up, and that means that the disclosure issue has to be faced, and that the relevant information carriers have to be brought to account as to what they've been doing, and we have to have a complete relook at broadcasting here. The BBC is currently under review, but the independent broadcasters are a joke, and Ofcom, I think, which is in charge of all this, needs to be held to account. They've shut down any creative individual mechanisms of broadcasting in this country for years, and the individuals there need to be. We need to the relevant individuals and organisations which have been feeding us this disinformation have to be brought to account. We need to know what's going on, what to do about it, and make educated, informed decisions about this based on all the information and not a small subset of information which is in the interests of a very small elite making a great deal of money, and that's the problem.
I'm just thinking about the disclosure. I mean, how is that going to happen? Just moving a little bit away from the.
Well, the disclosure. Basically, Steve Bassett has been pushing disclosure from the United States and the paradigm shift of that new consciousness, which involves all this. But really, Steve and and his colleagues and things are basically expecting a bunch of lying, deceiving, corrupt individuals to subtly say, believe us now, we're going to tell you the truth now. And we've been lying to you for decades, 70 odd years. Now we're just going to subtly say, sorry about that, this is the truth. You're going to believe people have been lying to you? Mm-hmm. No, you can't believe people have been lying to you. They've blown it.
Yeah.
There have to be credible, bona fide and verifiable sources of information on this. And that means that we've got to have a structure of information which you can believe. And right now, those structures of positive information or information which you can actually understand and believe are just virtually non-existent.
Well, it's gradually happening. If you sort of like, I was at Piccadilly Circus tube station, and quite a few of them actually, when you're underground, you literally, it's very interesting how they just put it out there in children paintings, keywords, aliens, spaceships, and all these images, big paintings on the wall in very public places where millions of people pass.
Well, that's a wonderful thing. But we have to make sure that it's not it's not steered in a hostile.
Exactly.
We have to be aware of the good side, the bad side, and what to deal with whatever's involved. And the children know it already, but the education system is more and more being threatened. That these children, as Mary Rodwell says, homo noeticus, these wonderful, bright children are going into an education system which which is designed to shut anything they've got to say down. And I understand that there are, in this country, there are government officials visiting schools specifically asking teachers, anybody who mentions 9/11, anybody who talks about aliens or UFOs, their name must be put forward and sent to the government. So the government's building up a database.
This is happening in
This
England.
is happening in these schools in this country. So they're already making a hit list to target people who have woken up.
Alright.
Well, the people making these hit lists have got to understand they're on a hit list and they're going to go next.
Right, okay, well, I'm definitely on a hit list. Hello. But it's okay.
I don't like making lists, so I don't make lists.
Yeah.
But people are going to wake up, we're going to have a positive outcome to this, we're going to make this happen, and we're going to have a happy, wonderful world in future.
Absolutely, I believe that as well. What else?